it was 22 years after the Great Chicago Fire.
In 1851, London hosted the first World's Fair, the Crystal Palace Exhibition. This was a major moment in history because it started a series World's Fair, which brought political attention, inventions, and wealth to various cities around the world. In Philadelphia, in 1876, as part of the Reconstruction era, they had a World's Fair. They lost money. They left doubt about World's Fair in the United States, especially during the Reconstruction. The Chicago World's Columbian Exposition put their doubts to rest.
The Great Chicago Fire had destroyed downtown. As Chicago was rebuilding the city, they bid on hosting the World's Fair. They had to get sponsors, and their main competitor was New York. They had enough sponsorship that Congress decided to let Chicago host it. It took place in Jackson Park on the south side of Chicago. Jackson Park before the fair was marshy and 7 miles south of downtown. The main landscape architect for the fair was Frederick Law Olmsted. He preferred the site because he envisioned it becoming the Central Park of Chicago. The main architect for the buildings of the fair was Daniel Burnham. The buildings of the fair were lit up at night, and because of that, it was called the White City.
Part of Olmsted's vision included a lagoon. Inside the middle of the lagoon stood the Statue of the Republic, a 64-foot-high woman made of plaster and covered in gold leaf. The statue was dedicated to the new Union after the Civil War. On May 11, 1918, the new replica of the Statue of the Republic was dedicated to honor the 25th anniversary of the World's Columbian Exposition, which was meant to honor the 400th anniversary of Columbus sailing to America and the 100th birthday of the entry of Illinois into the Union. Today, the Statue of the Republic is a major Chicago landmark. There are many features in Jackson Park, including baseball fields, the marina, the Museum of Science and Industry and its grounds, Bobolink Meadow, soccer fields, and the Japanese garden. In the World's Fair, countries were asked to show what their new innovations were. Japan put forth the Osaka Garden, also known as the Japanese Tea Garden. It is on the wooded island behind the Museum of Science and Industry. It overlooks a lagoon where bird watchers can come and watch birds. Some of the features in it are the Moon Bridge, the waterfall, and the rocks in the water. You are asked to stay on the path and not touch the rocks inside the water because of the spirituality. This is just one of the many exhibits in the World's Columbian Exposition.
Many of the exhibits took place on the Midway Plaisance. These exhibits were meant to show primitive societies and cultures. This was supposed to contrast with the White City, with all of its technology, culture, and art.
One new thing on the Midway was the Ferris wheel, made by George Washington Gale Ferris. He is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and designed steel bridges. The Ferris wheel was put on the Midway because Chicago wanted to best the Eiffel Tower, which is the centerpiece at the last World's Fair in Paris. The Ferris wheel had to be rebuilt because it was not stable enough the first time. When visitors came to the World's Columbian Exposition, up to 2,160 people could go on the Ferris wheel at the same time. There were 36 cars that could each hold 40 people. Similar rides are still used today, and we call them Ferris wheels, although today's Ferris wheels hold far fewer people. Today, the Midway Plaisance is a long stretch of land along the University of Chicago. They used to flood it in the winter and it would freeze so that families could ice skate on it. Today, there is an actual rink, which is frozen only in the winter. There are other activities that families can enjoy, like soccer in the lab schools, a part of the University of Chicago. The university also has many activities for families to join in the evenings. The exhibits at the World's Columbian Exposition had a long-lasting impact on technology in use today. Chicago's World's Columbian Exposition was an important event in history because it helped rebuild our country